Did you know that God just doesn't speak to Hebrew people? God speaks to everybody. When Sarah um, her maid named Hagar. Hagar got pregnant by Abraham, and the child was Ishmael. Ishmael is Abraham's son, but wasn't the chosen son, because the chosen son was from Sarah, which is Jacob. And Sarah was upset and told Abraham to, hey, you gotta get rid of Ishmael, because Ishmael is picking on Jacob after Jacob became the next heir, you know. Maybe like 7 years old, maybe 3 years old. So Abraham told Hagar, hey, you gotta leave. And Hagar packed one camel bag full of water and a loaf of bread and told her to leave. And as she was leaving, they no more food, no more water, and Hagar hid Ishmael in a bush because he was about to die. And God spoke to Hagar when Hagar was a bow shot away where Ishmael was hiding. God spoke to Hagar and said, Ishmael will have 12 princes under him, and he'll be taken care of course, because it's a lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God spoke to Hagar. I believe Hagar is an Egyptian woman. She wasn't a Hebrew person. And the cool thing about it is that God will speak to even Egyptians. God will speak to Canaanites. God will speak to the Philistines in their time, especially with Abraham going to see Pharaoh, and Abraham lied and told Pharaoh that Sarah is his sister. And when Abraham said that, because he didn't want them to kill Abraham for his wife, so he lied. But God still spoke to Pharaoh and gave him a dream in Egypt that Sarah is Abraham's wife. So Hagar as well. Hagar is not a Hebrew person, and God spoke to Hagar, even though it's not the lineage of Hebrew. But God will speak to anybody if you really ask and pray, and knowing that there is a God, and they called his name was Yahweh. They called his name Jehovah, and that's God's name back then. And knowing that God will supply for those who lean towards them. If you want to know any more of the story, just open up the book of Genesis and read on, because you're gonna know that God doesn't just speak to Israelites. God also speaks to Gentiles. God also speaks to anybody that prays towards him, and acknowledging that he is the only one true God, not any other gods. Gods. There's no plural. There's no gods. There's only one God. God, which is capital God. And open up Genesis and see the truth for yourself. I just got off work, and that's what we talked about today while they did cell cleaning, and I'm glad that these inmates were able to clean their cells, and we spoke about the Bible, and that's pretty cool. They had questions, they had answers that I didn't know, and made me question myself. And I opened up the book. I got a book of Bible right here. So let's find out who Hagar lineage is. Hagar. I'm gonna check in. I know it's gonna be a while. I'm gonna open it up, so just bear with me really quick. Abraham. There's Noah. That's in Genesis 10. Excuse me, I know it's taken a while. The Canaanites. Abram, perfect. Abraham, Sarah, Canaanite. Oh, and the souls. Okay, Abraham. Give me 1 second, really fast. Oh, there. By the way, about the whole Pharaoh. It's actually Genesis chapter 12 about the Pharaoh having a dream, and Genesis chapter 12 verse 15. The princess also of Pharaoh saw her and commanded her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, which is Sarah, Abraham's wife. And he entered Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses and manservants and maidservant, and she asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plague because of Sarai, Abraham's wife, Abram, before he became Abraham. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife?" How does he know? How did he know that Sarah is his wife when was his sister? And why saidst thou, she is my sister? So might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold, thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his man concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. That's Genesis chapter 13 now. But Genesis chapter 12 talks about Pharaoh having a dream or spoken to God. God spoke to him to tell him no, that hey, Sarah is Abraham's wife. Now let's go look for Hagar. Perfect. Genesis chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no child, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Hagar is an Egyptian, guys. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, and Abram to be his wife. So Hagar is an Egyptian person, like I said. This is in Genesis chapter 16. Feel free to open it up and check for yourself. There you go. Chapter 16. And there you go. Now, this is where, if you look down to Abraham, Genesis chapter 16, verse 6. But Abraham said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleases thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. Hagar left and ran away. But the Lord and the angel of the Lord found her by the fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, who said? The angel of the Lord said to Hagar. This is Genesis chapter 16, verse 8. He said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from thee, face of my mistress Sarah. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hand. And the angel of the Lord said to Hagar unto her, I will multiply thy seed. Hagar, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, and it shall not be numbered for the multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. Hagar. Hagar is an Egyptian. The Lord spoke to Hagar and told her, you will have a son and call him Ishmael. And he will be a wild man. His hands will be against every man, and every man's hands against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God, seize me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Be'er Laha Ra'oi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Berad. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old, and Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. Once again, God will speak to anybody. God will speak to those who are weak. God will speak to those who are sinning. God will speak to those that are not even his people. We're the Gentiles. We are the next branches. So check it out. Open up the book of Genesis. Again, Genesis 15, chapter 15, Genesis chapter 16, and Genesis. And it talks about the Lord speaking to not only Abraham, but also Egypt. He didn't only speak to Hebrew people, he even spoke to Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Philistines. God will speak to openly to those who actually seek and know who God is. The Lord Almighty, Abba, the Father. So if you feel like you're sinning, if you feel like you're going down the wrong path, just get on your knees and pray. And ask God for forgiveness. Because again, we all fall short to the glory of God. You know, we all fall short. I'm a sinner. I'm the biggest sinner. And God knows my heart. But I read daily knowing that God is the way, God is the truth, and God is the light. So again, open up the Bible, read up, and see that God will answer. And I'm living proof, guys, that I can do whatever I want to do. I became somebody that God put me. God gave me authority to help out some people in need. And Matthew chapter 25, that's very powerful. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you tend to me. When I was thirsty, you gave me water to drink. When I was in prison, you visit me. And the king said, this is the parable that Jesus said to the disciples. And the king said to his concubines, whenever you were hungry, we fed you. Whenever you were thirsty, we gave you water to drink. Whenever you were naked, we clothed you. Whenever you were sick, and we tempt you. And whenever you were in prison, and we visit you. And the king told them, if you do it for my least, to the least of the brothers and sisters, you also do it for me. You also do it for me. Woe to those who don't do that, who do not feed me when I'm hungry, who do not clothe me when I'm naked, who do not give me water when I'm thirsty, who do not visit me when I'm sick, or who do not visit me when I'm in prison. Woe to those. If you don't do it to them, you also don't do it for me. So check it out. Matthew chapter 25 is very powerful, and God will talk to anybody, and God uses anybody. And I'm glad that I'm able to share the word with you guys, the Holy Bible. Again, that last verse about when I was hungry, you fed me, check that out. It's in the book of Matthew chapter 25. But the beginning of the story, or the beginning of this video, is talking about knowing God will speak to anybody, not only the Hebrew people. He spoke to the Egyptians. So hey, open up the book of Bible, the Bible, which is in Latin means Bible, Bible. And hey, Bible, Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth. So again, read up, check it out, guys. Get your chance to open up the book and let God speak to you, and read it, and God will listen. You guys have a blessed day. God bless to all you guys. I gotta leave the parking lot now. I gotta go home. All right, God bless. Oh yeah, one more thing before I go. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the light. The only way to get to the Father is through Jesus. In Hebrew, they call him Yeshua. Yeshua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Jesus, the Messiah. Abba, meaning Father. And check it out, guys. Please. God bless.